At number 10 we have 36 degrees north, 117 degrees west, Death Valley, USA. One of the worst spots in America to get lost on a hiking trip. Now thanks to air-conditioned cars and cell phones, most people won't meet their end in this wasteland, but back when pioneers had to cross this desert, it was one of the most challenging tasks imaginable. If you were caught out there without supplies, you would last less than a day. Either dehydration, sunstroke, or one of the many predators living out there would make you meet your end faster than a pizza pocket when I'm drunk. Death Valley has the highest recorded temperature on the planet, clocking in at 57 degrees Celsius. The whole joke about being hot enough to fry an egg on the sidewalk is real there, except it won't be an egg, it will be your intestines as a vulture rips them out of your stomach. And if you manage to make it through the day into the night, the temperature will plummet. In the winter it can get as cold as -10 Celsius. As beautiful as the desert can be, I don't think I would want this to be my next vacation spot. If you're ever traveling through there, make sure you bring a ton of water and some blankets just in case your car breaks down. That would suck.
In our number 9 spot today we have the bunker. If you were to take a nice little scroll through the deserts of New Mexico, at some point you'd see something etched into the ground. They appear to be 2 large diamonds that are surrounded by a pair of overlapping circles. Okay, likely not a naturally occurring situation, so what could it be? Maybe an ancient geoglyph? Maybe some sort of cool secret Area 51 style place? No, of course it's just allegedly the site of some hidden bunker that belongs to the Church of Scientology. Apparently this cult uses these symbols to guide Scientologists who are returning to Earth after fleeing a planet's Armageddon. Okay. Sure. There are other examples of strange and hidden places that somehow link back to this cult, so it really has me wondering just how many properties and areas that they have and what they're up to. Maybe that explanation really is the truth behind these symbols, but what if it's not? Despite how controversial this cult is, they've managed to grow quite widespread, and they've gained some quite well-known people over the years, like Tom Cruise and John Travolta. So random. In our number 8 spot today we have the Cauldron. Google Earth can basically take you anywhere except for the areas they of course have blocked off for a variety of reasons. And when I say basically anywhere, sometimes I mean even the most absurd places, including right to the edge of a boiling cauldron of lava. That's right, you can head right to the edge of the volcano that is located on an island in the Vanuatu chain in the South Pacific. It is cool because it's likely the closest I'll ever get to seeing this kind of view in real life, but it's also terrifying to look into that cavern that's filled with bright, hot magma. Like, even just looking at this photo, you can almost feel the heat and the panic of being at the mouth of a volcano. Very cool, but also very scary. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Nevada Triangle. This image from Google Maps captures a spooky symbol that is lurking in the deserts of Nevada. I think conspiracy theorists have forever ruined triangles just in general, but this large one with all the circles inside, coupled with the minimal answers on what it is, definitely makes for a bit of an eerie sight. Right now, the most popular theory as to what this could be is a bombing target. Apparently close by is an Air Force base, so that theory truly would make quite a bit of sense. It could also be some sort of abandoned airstrip perhaps, but of course with any mystery on the internet, there are more very wild theories out there. Of course there's the obligatory "it's aliens" theory, along with some sort of Illuminati idea, but it wouldn't be the internet without it. In our number 6 spot today we have the fire. As the satellites and little cars go by that document the imagery used on Google Maps, they can't exactly predict or control who or what is going to be happening in the area captured. Sometimes it might capture someone who will eventually be blurred out on their front lawn. Sometimes it captures accidents, and in this case it captured an absolutely raging field fire in Arkansas. It would already be terrifying from the ground, but seeing it from this vantage point really shows how large and powerful it is. Someone on Reddit made a good point, saying that it appears as though there are people on the south side, which likely means that the fire is contained and controlled, thankfully, but that doesn't really make it any less cool or interesting to see. In our number 5 spot today we have the Valley of Dolls. Google Maps, especially the street view, is such a great way to look around a place and kind of get your bearings before you even get there. I mean, I remember almost 8 years ago now, before I moved to Toronto, I spent hours digitally walking around the streets, seeing my home, where I was gonna go to school, all that jazz. It was super exciting. But sometimes you walk around a city so unlike your own that it absolutely shocks you, and that is likely what would happen if you were to just stumble upon the town or village of Nagoro in Japan, which is known as the Valley of Dolls. A woman named Ayano Tsukimi grew up in the village and remembers a time when it was full of families and other children just like her, but during her years in secondary school, she and her family moved to Osaka. Ayano continued to grow up, she married and had her own kids, all the while her parents ended up moving back to the town. After her mother passed away, she also moved back to the village in order to help care for her father, and this is when she realized that the population of the town had dropped drastically since her time here as a child. While living here and trying to keep her garden free of crows, she made a scarecrow that resembled her father and she placed it outside. When she realized that those living in the village began to mistake the scarecrow for her father, she had an idea to commemorate those in the village who had passed away with a scarecrow, and boom, 350 dolls later, the town became an attraction for travelers and journalists. It's a bit eerie to peer through on Google Maps, but when the full story is revealed, it gets way less sinister and actually kinda sweet. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Costa Concordia. The Costa Concordia was a huge ship with 17 decks, 6 restaurants, and a 3-story theater. The ship was big enough to hold a whopping 4,200 passengers, so there were a lot of people on this boat on January 13th, 2012. On that day, the boat's captain wanted to sail a little closer to the island of Isla del Giglio than he normally would so that he could impress and salute the residents. He turned off the ship's alarm for the computer navigation system, which turned out to be just as terrible of an idea as you would think it is. He thought he knew the waters well enough to navigate by sight, but when the ship struck an underwater rock, things took a deadly turn. The ship capsized and sank, which unfortunately ended up taking the lives of some of the passengers on board. The captain, who is responsible for the accident in the first place, made one more awful mistake when he abandoned ship while passengers were still stuck on board. The recovery for the ship was the largest of its kind, as the huge ship had been entirely dismantled. You might be wondering why on earth I just told you an entire shipwreck story, and that is because both the wreck as well as the subsequent rescue efforts were visible on Google Earth for quite some time. The satellite imagery probably isn't even as near as terrifying as it must have been to be close during those terrifying days, but it does give us an idea of the size of this disaster. In our number 3 spot today, we have the crater. Space is very cool, but for every cool and interesting thing I learn about it, I also learn one equally or even more terrifying thing about it as well. It's a very scary place, and we truly have no control over the powers of it, which is exactly why this startling image found on Google Earth is an unsettling one. Somewhere in northern Arizona, there is a mark that is like an Earth scar, and it serves as a reminder of a 50,000-year-old meteor strike. When I call it a mark or a scar, I am greatly understating it, as this thing is a huge crater known as the Barringer crater. It's the result of a 150-foot slab of nickel iron that smashed into the Earth with the exploding force of 2.5 million tons of TNT. Yeah, this sure makes me glad I wasn't around 50,000 years ago. This natural disaster caused this natural landmark that serves as our reminder of just how small we really are. In our number 2 spot today, we have the scene. This is an image that went viral, with people saying that if you typed in these certain coordinates, that you will see what people think is a man dragging a body down a dock and leaving a bloody trail behind. That would be gruesome, wouldn't it? When looking at the image, it does seem compelling, and that is pretty much what it looks like, although it's definitely still a little unclear. In fact, it was so compelling that Snopes actually did an article on it. The dock is located in the Netherlands, and according to their research into it, Snopes claims that the photo is just a few people walking, and they are likely accompanied by a sort of brown dog, who may have just jumped into the water and then left some watermarks, thus the reasoning for the red-stained wood. That is definitely a less sinister explanation, and it's the one I'm hoping is true. In our number 1 spot today, we have the pond. Davy Lee Niles was 72 years old in 2006 when he disappeared. Sadly, for almost a decade, the case went cold as no one could find him or his car or even figure out what might have happened to him. That was until someone was decorating a Christmas tree in 2015 and was high up on a lift, and they spotted something deep within a pond nearby. That something they spotted turned out to be something that had also been visible on Google Maps for years, and in the end, it was the car that belonged to Davy. And when the authorities went to recover it, they were able to find his body body inside. The car wasn't visible before because at ground level it's just too murky. While the satellite image taken from Google Maps makes it quite clear that there is something there, not too many people are taking a virtual tour around this body of water. Thankfully, that person in 2015 wasn't only aware of their surroundings, but they said something when they saw something, and it was able to lead to closure for the family of Davy. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the pigeon people. Japan is the home to many wonderful things, and that includes the wacky, bizarre pigeon people of Google Earth. Yes, you heard me correctly. What looks absolutely terrifying on the surface is thankfully most likely just a strange prank, but basically it saw a group, all wearing pigeon heads, lined up on the sidewalk ready for the Google camera as it went by. It's definitely a strange sight to begin with, but it's made even weirder by the turn of their heads in order to follow the camera. Honestly, really unsettling when you first look at it. I mean, pigeons are already weird creatures, so this little prank definitely has a bit of an eerie feeling to it, but the good news is that it's likely just a fun group of students from the art school that is nearby to this weird scene found on Google Maps.
Starting us off, in at number 10 on this list, we have this. Alright, I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but I think these are the real life pigeon men. If I saw this, if I was driving around at nighttime and I saw this, I'd be freaking out. I don't know if a robbery is about to go down. I don't know what's going on. Is this a bird protest? Are you protesting for pigeons? Okay, well, apparently this photo was actually found by a Reddit user and it's from Japan. It's a pretty famous random Google map image and kind of hilarious. I just have way too many questions on that one. I don't know why that became famous. What is the backstory?
In our 9th spot, we have 2207 Seymour Avenue. And if you guys are liking this video so far, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up. 2207 Seymour Avenue, located in Cleveland, Ohio, is a home where a horrific crime took place. From 2002 to 2004, Ariel Castro kidnapped 3 young women: Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Georgina De Jesus. He kept them captive in his home until 2013 when Amanda Berry escaped with her daughter and contacted the police. The police came to his house and rescued the other women. Castro was arrested within hours. He was sentenced to life plus 1,000 years in prison without parole. Due to the disturbing crimes that took place at his home, Google Maps decided to blur his house. In fact, the house has been named the House of Horrors. But a couple years back, his house was demolished to help the victims move on from their traumatizing past. Coming in at number 8, we have the French nuclear facility. The Arriva-La Hague nuclear fuel reprocessing facility in France is another place that is blurred out on Google Maps. This facility opened in 1976 and is responsible for treating nuclear fuel from several countries. Here's the thing though, this facility hasn't always been blurred out. By using the Google Earth History tab, you can see old Google Earth images of this facility. So now, why all of a sudden is it blurred out? What is going on there? Well, it may have something to do with the controversy it has received and the backlash it received from Greenpeace. Since 1997, Greenpeace has been trying to shut it down, saying that they dump 1 million liters of liquid radioactive waste per day in the ocean. That is severely messed up if that's true. Maybe that's why it's blurred out, so that people don't see what they're really up to with their nuclear waste. Moving on to number 7, we have the French prison. There are a number of prisons that are blurred out on Google Earth, including the Beaumet prison in Marseille. Now, why do they blur out images of prisons? Well, a couple of reasons. One, for privacy. But the main reason is so that the criminals don't know the layout of the prison. Basically, this prison wasn't always blurred. Following a successful jailbreak, France's Minister of Justice was like, why are there aerial images of this prison available online? And then that led to the prison getting blurred. But of course, you can still find older images of the prison on Google Maps that show what it looks like and its layout. In our 6th spot, we have the Antarctic ice shield. This is another pretty strange place to get blurred. But basically, halfway between Australia and Madagascar, there is a 22-kilometer long blur in the middle of the Antarctic ice shield. I mean, this place is one of the most isolated places on Earth. There's nothing but ice and penguins there. So why is it being blurred out? We don't know for sure, but people think that there is something hidden there that we're not allowed to see. Although it's thought to be owned by Australia, theory goes that Russia or the US have built a research facility there. The only way we'll know for sure is by visiting the place itself. So who's coming with me for this field trip? It'll be a lot of fun. Come on, just pack pack a snowsuit, and lots of hot packs. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with MURUROA Island. Located in French Polynesia, this island was first used for nuclear testing in 1966 by France. These tests apparently took place until 1996. That's when the French president shut down the facility. Why? Well, Greenpeace found out that these tests were polluting the water as far as Peru and New Zealand. In fact, many locals in Tahiti have claimed they have been affected by the radiation from the tests. Nowadays, the island is off limit to visitors and is guarded by French forces, which is probably why half of the island is blurred on Google Maps. Or maybe it's because they're still doing these nuclear tests. We may never know. Moving on, at number 4 we have ELMIRA Correctional Facility. ELMIRA Correctional Facility, also known as The Hills, is a maximum security state prison in New York. This is another facility blurred on Google Earth. Why? Well, a number of reasons. 1, they have fears of an aerial attack. Number 2, they have fears that someone will use this information to plan an escape. And number 3, the prison is highly secure. Why would they want images of the building online for everyone to see? But it turns out that this location got blurred after a number of riots and mass escapes. Moving on, at number 3 we have North Korea. Okay, is it even shocking that North Korea has sections of its country blurred? I mean, they are so secretive, so this isn't a surprise at all. Now, the area that is blurred is along the country's western shore. So people have thought that they are hiding something there, maybe a secret military project. Who knows? I mean, hey, the country is hiding so many things. Like I said, this one doesn't really come as a surprise. In our second spot, we have Paseo de los Naranjos. Located in Spain, this place translates to orange tree yard, and it is completely censored on Google Maps. No matter how close you try to zoom in on the map or the area close by, you won't be able to see anything. Why? Well, there's a lot of government buildings located there, so it's blurred out for security and privacy reasons, which makes sense. Many government or military buildings are blurred out on Google Maps for similar reasons. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Jeannette Island. Located in Russia, this island is said to contain a secret Russian military base. If you type this island into Google, you'll find a whole lot of nothing. Legit, it just looks like a bunch of water. It's not even registered on Google Maps as an island. When you type in its coordinates, you will see a message that says this island is unavailable. Now, before it was removed from the maps altogether, it wasn't even blurred out. It was actually blacked out. Like there was a full-on black mass just covering it. But when you zoomed in, you could see this icy mass, and that's all. According to Reddit user Exoplanetary Science, he said, and I quote, "Google rarely blacks out without reason. A search through Google Earth shows that this has been permanently blurred out, even in images dating back to the 1980s. I'm going to guess there's a concealed Russian military base located there, and possibly quite a substantial one. So, there you have it, folks. Secret Russian military base."
At number 9 we have 25 degrees south, 153 degrees east, Fraser's Island, Australia. Australia is a beautiful place. It's like hot Canada with more fighting and beer. Honestly, I've never been there. I'm just basing it off of movies and TV. I'm really stereotyping you guys. I'm very sorry. But globally, Australia is known for housing some of the most dangerous creatures on the planet, and Fraser's Island is considered the most dangerous place in Australia. It's basically a funnel for several different dangerous species. To start it off, there are 2 types of jellyfish which are common to Fraser's Island: Irukandji and blue bottles. Both of those jellyfish have stings so severe that they will send you to the hospital. And if the waters weren't dangerous enough, this is also a hotspot for young great white sharks. I'm assuming they go to these beaches for biting practices. They want to get their reflexes nice and sharp before they chase down some surfers. So you might be saying to yourself, well, I'll just stay out of the water and I'll go explore the island. Well, there are packs of wild dingoes running around waiting to turn your tibia into a chew toy. Oh, and if you get attacked by any of these wild animals, there is zero medical services on the island. So you better hope you don't bleed out fast while the helicopter is zooming you to save your life. At number 8 we have 12 degrees north, 57 degrees east, Danakil Desert, Ethiopia. We're jumping back into the heat, and with winter just around the corner, this place makes me kind of jealous. I know that temperatures in deserts are high enough to kill someone, but I think it might be nicer than having to wait for a bus in the snow. Anyways, the Danakil Desert, also known as the Danakil Depression, is one of the hottest places on the planet, and because of its extreme heat, it's home to natural wonders. First, there is a decent amount of volcanic activity. This might be one of the only places on Earth where you walk into the desert to cool off. There's also mysterious salt pools. These are one of the largest tourist attractions in the area. Salt deposits build up on the sides of these pools, and the water is packed with sulfur. The salt has the aesthetic of a rimmed glass straight from nature's cocktail lounge. However, don't drink from one of these pools unless you want a slow, painful death. And I think we can agree we're all looking for swift and numb when it comes to dying. The pools are extremely poisonous. Even the air just above the pools is so packed with carbon dioxide that when small animals get too close, they will suffocate and die. And here's the cherry on top of the sundae, this place is nicknamed the Gateway to Hell. Wow. Beautiful. At number 7, we have 37 degrees north, 59 degrees east, Fukushima, Japan. For anyone who is unaware why Fukushima is a place you do not want to visit, it is home to the second largest nuclear disaster ever. In 2011, a major earthquake hit Fukushima, damaging a power plant, causing the city to evacuate. Since then, no one has been allowed to return, and the situation has improved, but it is not looking great. In order to keep the core cool of this power plant that melted down, they are constantly pouring water on top of them. This water is then contaminated with radiation, obviously, and they must contain it so it doesn't spread. But they are running out of places to put this contaminated water. Also, the city is now overgrown with vegetation. With the absence of people, the forests have started to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. And with it has brought a little bit of wildlife. I talked about this in a previous video, but I wanted to mention again because this is actually crazy. Radioactive wild boars have come into Fukushima and are thriving. For whatever reason, they do not seem to be afraid of radiation, and they are staking their claim on the land. This is how monster movies start. Next thing you know, we're gonna have giant mutant pigs swimming across the Pacific Ocean, coming here to eat the West. At number 6, we have 2 degrees south, 36 degrees east, Lake Natron, Tanzania. From a distance, this lake seems like a bronze wonder. The color and stillness looks like something pulled right out of a travel magazine. But this is the last lake you would want to take a swim in. There is only 3 things that have managed to live in this lake. 1 species of fish, 1 type of flamingo, and some algae. Everything else that touches this water dies extremely fast. Why is that? Well, the pH in the lake can sit around 9 and sometimes stretch up to 10.5. The animals that call this place home have adapted to the harsh conditions. But let's say a bird unfamiliar with the area decides to take a dip. Their eyes and skin will be burned from the high pH levels, and the ending result will look like they've been hit with Medusa's gaze. At number 5, we have 44 degrees south, 71 degrees west, Mount Washington, USA. Alright, we did a couple places in the excruciating heat, and now it's time to head into the bitter cold. Mount Washington is freezing, and it has temperatures that can reach 40 below. Fun fact about 40 below, that's where the 2 scales of Celsius and Fahrenheit meet. You can share that with your friends next time you're freezing to death in the -40 weather. I'm sure they'll love that little tidbit of information while their nose peels off. And if the brutal cold wasn't enough to make you want to avoid this place, it also has the fastest winds ever recorded on a mountain. 238 miles per hour. That's over 300 kilometers per hour. That's stronger than a Category 5 hurricane. The wind is so strong it will give your face freezer burn right before it rips it off and sends it hurling down the mountain. At number 4 on the list, we have 24 degrees south, 46 degrees west, Snake Island, Brazil. I didn't make this place up. I know it sounds like something pulled out of a cheesy low-budget 80s action movie, but it's real, and it has enough snakes living there to make the cast of The Real Housewives for decades. There is 1 snake for every square foot. I don't have a fear of snakes, but there's still no way I'm going to get close to this place, especially since almost every species on the island is extremely venomous. There's even rumors that snakes will swim off the island to boats that are too close and kill the people on board and then eat them. I even heard there's a symbiotic relationship with the birds on the island and the snakes on the island, where the birds will pick up the snakes and then drop them on people who are on the island so they get like an air attack and kill them. That one I made up. I just kind of wanted to hype up the story a little bit more. But your real biggest worry is about getting bitten and then having to ride in a boat back to the mainland to go see a doctor. It's a 90-kilometer trip, so you would probably be dead before you got anywhere close to any sort of medical attention. At number 3, we have 3 degrees north, 98 degrees east, Sinabung Volcano, Indonesia. I mean, who wouldn't want to live right next to an active volcano? It seems like a swell place to raise a family. But you guys are probably wondering, well, you can live next to an active volcano, but that doesn't mean it's gonna blow up all the time. Well, between the years 2010 and 2016, Sinabung has popped off 5 times in 6 years. That is crazy. This place has blown up more times in 6 years than Conor McGregor has fought. And he is a professional fighter, huh? I hope he doesn't find me and kick my ass. I don't know, that could happen. I'm sure it's a beautiful place, but it would be hard to tell with all the constant lava flowing through it. This volcano is part of the Ring of Fire, which is a string of volcanoes lining up with tectonic plates that erupt more often than usual. So I'm not eager to check this place out, but you guys can go for me. At number 2, we have 25 degrees north, 70 degrees west, the Bermuda Triangle. Any kid growing up in the 90s heard about the Bermuda Triangle again and again. It was the plot point in every show from Scooby-Doo to Jackie Chan's Adventures. Yo, remember Jackie Chan had a cartoon and it was absolute fire? That cartoon was so good. Anyways, the Bermuda Triangle is a large chunk of the Atlantic situated between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, and has been a hotspot for people disappearing. Planes, boats, rescue missions all have vanished without a trace, and it leaves people baffled as to what is going on. Some people think it's a hotspot for storms to kick up, other people say there's magnetic forces that destroy navigation equipment. The crazier theories suggest that the Bermuda Triangle is a gateway for interdimensional travel, that aliens use this to fly across the universe in an instant. Even though there's a lot of disappearances from this area, many of them have been explained, but there's still a ton of cases that leave people wondering what's going on in this mysterious chunk of ocean. Ugh. I don't know why I did that tongue thing at the end. And number 1 on our list is 40 degrees north, 58 degrees east, the Darvaza gas crater, Turkmenistan. Right off the bat, this place is nicknamed the door to hell. It has an even creepier nickname than that other hell place. Not the place you want to spend your honeymoon. Unless you're both super metal, then it's probably like a great choice. Turkmenistan has a massive natural gas reserve, and that has been the fuel to the door to hell. It was back in 1971 when Turkmenistan was still part of the Soviet Union. There was construction underway, and a drilling operation caused a large amount of the earth to collapse in. And what started flowing out of it? A toxic gas. If it wasn't dealt with quickly, it would have poisoned the entire area. Good news though, the gas was flammable, so the Soviets figured, we'll just light it on fire, it'll burn for a little while, and then we'll get back to work, comrade. Well, it did catch on fire, and then it did burn, but it never stopped. It has been burning since 1971, and has no sign of going out anytime soon. And if a giant pit of fire wasn't enough to keep you away, Turkmenistan is run by a dictator. Have a nice vacation. At number 10, we have Mogadishu, Somalia. Alright, we're gonna kick off this list with a place that has all the key points in a place you do not want to visit. Do they have kidnappings? Oh, you better believe it. Tourists who make the mistake of traveling alone can often get a burlap sack put right over their head and be on a one-way ticket to Ransom Town. If you are an American, there is an increased chance of you getting scooped up, so keep an eye out. Actually, it is recommended that you travel with a bodyguard. Okay, so they have that, but do they also have gangs? Yes sir, they do. Gang violence is a regular thing and civilians are killed all the time. And the cherry on top is there also is a very unstable government with a military constantly walking through the streets. Not to mention the people are suffering. So unless you're traveling with military protection and you have the need to stabilize an unstable country, maybe choose Cancun for your next vacation.
In our number 9 spot today, we have The Invitation. This weird Google Maps image comes to us from Memphis, Tennessee, and while I've never been, I've heard wonderful things. That is all except for this weird message that was found as someone was searching through Google Maps, and it's located on the top of the building. Someone wrote this message, and it's gotta be pretty large considering it was so easy to read even from this distance, but the message says, "Come downtown and play." I don't know what kind of Pennywise is out there writing these kinds of messages, but I know I'm not crazy and there's something almost sinister feeling about it. It is likely some sort of marketing tactic or something of that nature. I mean, at least I hope it is, but from a distance, when it looks like it could be something that was spray painted by a random person, it just seems weird, you know? I just know I probably won't be RSVPing to this invite anytime soon. Thanks, but no thanks. In our number 8 spot today, we have The Disposal. Mannequins are always creepy. I don't care, they just are. My old roommate was a hairdresser, and when she was in school, sometimes I'd go to get a glass of water in the middle of the night and be absolutely startled by the disembodied head I saw, and only after the near heart attack realize in my sleepy state that it in fact was just a mannequin head. Well, you can imagine people got a lot of the same sort of feeling when they were on Google Maps and saw this sight of all of these discarded mannequins that truly for a second looks like it's a pile of bodies sitting in the trash. How horrifying. This site was was seen on Google Maps in Chile and it definitely was freaking people out. I wonder what these mannequins were used for. I mean, there's a ton of them, so it must have been used for some sort of clothing shop or like a seamstress or something, right? Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but that's what I'm choosing to believe. In our number 7 spot today, we have friendship. This is one Google Maps sighting that doesn't have a lot of information behind it, which definitely makes it all the more eerie. Basically, this is just an image of a group of friends standing together in the desert. Maybe a little strange, but not so weird. Right? Well, yeah, except for the weird masks they're wearing and the fact that they're all staring directly at the camera. I'm sure the story behind this one is that these friends saw the Google Maps car coming and decided to play a little prank, probably similar to the pigeon people, but I mean, no one has been able to confirm this, and who keeps a bunch of scary masks on them? I mean, I guess the mission these people set out on was likely accomplished, because here we are, talking about this creepy prank. In our number 6 spot today, we have the SS JASSIM wreck. The SS JASSIM was a Bolivian cargo ship that sank on the evening of December 1st, 2003. For a while, no one was quite sure as to why it sank, as well as the fact that no one could find the wreck. This was honestly very strange just in general, but also especially because of the fact that the ship was quite large at 265 feet. This is exactly why it was so surprising when, a few years ago, the Google Maps team located the sunken vessel based on their satellite imaging. The ship was found on its side, perhaps in the same location it initially sank, in Wingate Reef, just off of the coast of Sudan. The mystery as to why the wreck was never found was realized because of the location of it. The wreck is close to an island where an uncontacted tribe lives. Of course, for the safety of both the tribe as well as outsiders who might not be welcomed, people thankfully tend to leave the island alone, but this is exactly why the wreck wasn't found for so long. This wreck then became one of the largest visible on Google Earth until quite recently. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Gobi Desert structure. This is one discovery that I talked about recently, and it's one that had conspiracy theorists' minds absolutely swirling. About a decade ago, someone was searching through some Google Maps images when they found a mysterious array of structures and patterns that appeared to be etched into the surface of the Gobi Desert, which is located in China. The structures, as they are referred to, are kind of similar to geoglyphs, but these ones look modern and newly created, and rather than actually being carved into the ground, they're made of something. The internet, of course, came up with some pretty insane speculations of what these structures could be, or what they might be used for, and the ideas stretched from spy satellite calibration to some sort of Illuminati affiliated product, so who really knows at this point? In our number 4 spot today, we have the perpetrators. Okay, so this picture is definitely not really terrifying itself, but the story behind it certainly is. So basically, in 2011, a woman who lives in Oklahoma City was unfortunately the victim of a terrible crime. She was held at gunpoint by one man while another raided her home. I can't even imagine. That must have been so terrible and terrifying. So imagine her surprise one day when a friend of hers was on Google Maps in her neighborhood, and who does she see other than the 2 people who committed this crime against her? They were seen on the street camera hanging out apparently near her home. She of course called the police and turned the images over to them, and it is said that they are using them in the investigation. It is unclear if they were ever able to catch the perpetrators or not, but hopefully this image proved to be useful. In our number 3 spot today, we have the escape artist. Listen, not everything appears as it is on the surface, but this one at best is definitely fishy. Basically, it appears as if the Google Maps camera may have caught someone as they escape prison. This photo comes from Michigan, and it was taken by Google in front of the Lenawee County Jail. Basically, in the image, you see a guy walking in a white jumpsuit with black stripes, carrying a bag on his shoulder, with the jail visible in the background. When someone initially saw this on Google Maps, they of course screenshotted it and posted it to Reddit, asking people if Google caught someone as they were escaping. Honestly, we aren't exactly sure, but it is entirely possible that this inmate was just a trusted one who was on some kind of work duty where they were doing some work outside of the fence. Perhaps whoever was supervising just wasn't in the view of the Google car. Either that or this guy's the most calm escapee I've ever seen. In our number 2 spot today, we have caught red-handed. In 2008, a young man in Holland was biking home when 2 men ended up ambushing him, and they stole his bike, phone, and the cash he had on him. First, authorities were having trouble finding who the 2 men were that did this to him because of a lack of evidence, but just 6 months later there was a break in the case. photos. The boy was looking at the street view of where the incident happened, and as he explored just a little bit, he found that the Google Maps car camera had captured the moments just prior to this terrible incident. That means that the camera captured the faces of those who had stolen his belongings. He ended up calling the police, who then called Google and asked for the unblurred versions of the photos. When Google delivered them, the police realized that they were able to directly identify the pair in the photo, who were a pair of 24-year-old brothers. Who knew that Google Maps could help bring people to justice? In our number 1 spot today, we have the cold case. This is one thing that was discovered on Google Maps that is really similar to a story that I covered in part 1 of this series. Basically, in 2007, someone was on Google Maps when they spotted something in a body of water that appeared to them to be a car. It turns out that they were right, and they helped the authorities solve an over 20-year-old cold case. Apparently, a man named William Molt was reported missing from Florida on November 7th, 1997. He never returned home after a night out, and police had been searching for him ever since. Once that person in 2007 brought what they found to the police, they were able to investigate, and they found the missing vehicle. Inside was a body that they were finally able to identify as the missing William. It truly is a very tragic story, but at least he was finally found so that he can be returned to his loved ones and they can have some closure to the story. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have the star. While searching through images, someone stumbled upon an isolated corner of Kazakhstan, and here they found a large pentagram etched into the ground, which of course may have set off some alarm bells. The 5-point star is surrounded by a circle and is very clearly visible, and of course, once the image began circling the internet, people were coming up with only the most wild theories and explanation. In the end, it turned out to be the exact opposite of something sinister. It's actually the outline of a park that was made into the shape of a star. The star is so clearly marked because of the roadways, and where there's no road, there's a lot of trees, which makes the symbol stand out even more. It's like the best possible outcome for this one, honestly. A beautiful tree-lined park in the shape of a star. How lovely.
At number 9, we have the Siatram River in Indonesia. In places all over the world, resources are so tight that people are forced to exploit their environment. The Siatram River is a living representation of this. It's located in Indonesia, and there's very little infrastructure around there for these people to live a clean and healthy life. So they resort to taking what they can from the land. This river is extremely polluted because the 5 million people who live there have to use it to bathe, water crops, dispose of waste, dispose of garbage, and drink. The river has been so polluted that any wildlife that used to call this place home has either left or died. It is terrible to see a place where people are forced to live without clean drinking water. At number 8, we have the Queen's Bath, Hawaii. There are beautiful beaches, parties everywhere, and enough drunk tourists to make a conga line all the way to the American mainland. But it's the wonderful attractions that can lure people into a false sense of security. On the island of Kauai, there is an absolutely breathtaking formation called the Queen's Bath. It is a natural pool formed right into the rock bed of the island. It kind of looks like a place royalty would come to dip their feet in while they drink champagne and laugh about stealing the world's resources. But this place is similar to a Venus flytrap. Gorgeous to look at, but when you get too close it can be dangerous. People will often go swimming in the Queen's Bath, and then a very strong wave will come through and either bash them against the rocks or wash them out to sea. There are tons of warning signs trying to tell tourists that they should not go swimming in this pool, but every year tourists either drown or need to be rescued. At number 7, we have Syria. Syria has been in constant turmoil for many years. First, there was constant civil war, the rebel soldiers battling the government every single day in an attempt to liberate Syria from the oppressive government. This meant that warfare was commonplace in the streets. And then ISIS took over a major chunk of Syria, which obviously meant that the violence only escalated. Then the American troops had to come in and try and push out ISIS, which meant even more war. It seems like the struggles in Syria will never end. Can everyone there just like call a timeout? Like everyone just stop fighting for 2 minutes and then just be friends and see what happens? I think that is the worst advice I have ever given anyone. Yeah, Che, you can stop war by everyone just being friends. And that's why I'm making top 10 lists and I'm not in politics. At number 6, we have Oymyakon, Russia. Here's something about me. I love warm weather. If it's 40 plus Celsius and I'm sweating at home just from putting on my pants, I've never been happier. So this place would be hell on earth for me. Oymyakon is the coldest inhabited place in the world. 500 people live there year round for some unknown reason. They must like it when it gets so cold that your eyeballs freeze inside your head, which is a real thing that can happen. The temperature can drop to negative 62 degrees Celsius. That's minus 80 Fahrenheit. It would be so cold I would want to cry out, but my tear ducts would be frozen, so all I would be able to do is scream and pray for death. One of the weirdest things about this place is it's actually a tourist attraction. People will choose to go to the coldest village on the earth rather than eating pizza in Italy. If you're that kind of person, don't talk to me. I don't need your weird vibes getting on me. I'm vibing all the time. I don't want your bad cold vibes in my life, okay? One of the main tourist attractions at this place is a giant thermometer that will remind you how much fun you're having by showing you the lip slicing temperatures. And one time it got so cold in this village that the thermometer broke. What the hell? At number 5 we have Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. This one is a toss-up. Like, I would probably go to Rio. Rio's an amazing city. It's filled with some of the most gorgeous people you've ever seen in your life. They have the amazing Carnival festival where you can party for like days and probably fall in and out of love 10 times. Brazilian food is amazing. You can go to a Brazilian steakhouse and eat enough meat that you'll get meat sweats that soak right through your shoes. But Rio definitely has a darker side. Rio's one of the most dangerous cities on the planet. There is a ton of gang violence, with Rio being a major hotspot for drug trafficking and gun trade. You also have a good chance of getting kidnapped or murdered. So when you're picking your next vacation spot, you gotta decide how bad you want to see people dance on a float during Carnival. At number 4 we have Lake Nyos, Cameroon. Back in August of 1986, a giant cloud of carbon dioxide erupted out of the bottom of Lake Nyos. This invisible cloud of death spread fast at 50 kilometers an hour and ended up killing 1,700 people. This is the kind of thing where legends of gods and monsters come from. If this happened when an ancient civilization was living there, they wouldn't have known that this was caused by a giant carbon cloud from a nearby volcano. They would have thought it was some sort of demonic force and they needed to sacrifice things. They would have been afraid of this lake until the end of time. But thankfully we have computers to tell us what happened. A seismic shift caused gas from a volcano to come through Lake Nyos. This is normal, but the gas usually is released slowly, not in these massive amounts like this. Since this happened, scientists have developed a way to extract gas from the base of the lake, preventing it from happening again. But even though they're taking safety measures, you won't catch me anywhere near this place. At number 3 we have the Ganges River, India. The Ganges River in India is one of the most polluted rivers on the planet. If you thought the river Siatram was bad, it has nothing on the Ganges. This river is used for sewage, personal waste, and the waste of major companies. And get this, over 500 million people use this river regularly. Some people come visit it every day because they believe it has holy powers that can heal you, which is absolutely not true. The river is actually packed with harmful chemicals that cause cancer. From all the constant traffic of people visiting the river, it's only getting more polluted. There is trash that is left there every day from all the people that make the trip. And there isn't even a proper cleaning system, so the problem is only getting worse. At number 2 we have the Skeleton Coast, Namibia. This place has all the pieces of an environment that is trying to kill you. I mean, it's called the Skeleton Coast, for God's sake. They didn't call it sexy fun Margarita Beach. No, they didn't. First off, we have very harsh waters. The tides and waves are so unpredictable that you can see the shells of all the shipwrecks along the coast. Everything from major tankers to little tugboats can be seen broken down along this beach. If you're one of the people who are unlucky enough to get shipwrecked here and survived by swimming to the mainland, you would now be in one of the worst deserts on the planet. It is extremely dry with almost zero water sources and spans hundreds of kilometers. There's also this eerie fog effect that comes off the ocean and covers the desert, meaning you could be lost in a brutal landscape without being able to see 10 feet in front of you because the fog is so thick. That sounds like a pleasant way to die. At number 1 we have Caracas, Venezuela. Okay, for the number 1 spot we have one of the most hostile cities on the planet, so strap in. The entire country of Venezuela has been at war with its own government for years now. Protesters are shot and killed in the streets on a regular basis, and all this chaos has seemed to be boiled down to Caracas. People desperately want their freedom from the oppressive government, and on top of that, there's an insane amount of organized crime. You have drug lords moving products through the city constantly, and hijackings are a regular occurrence. And it's suggested that you never wear anything expensive when you're walking through the street because people will rob it right off your body. So leave your Gucci sneakers at home unless you want to be walking around barefoot. To give you a little perspective, if you Google countries with the most murders right now, Caracas will be number 3.
Starting off this countdown, we have AMCHITKA Island. Located in Alaska, sections of this island are blurred out on Google Maps, and no one really knows why this is. But it may have to do with the nuclear testing that once took place there. From the 1950s to the 1970s, AMCHITKA Island was the site of US underground nuclear testing. Nowadays, they are running tests to see if the island has any radioactive leakage there. If there isn't, then in 2025 it could become a wildlife reserve. But again, why is half of the island blurred out? Maybe that's the section where the nuclear testing took place. But why is it still blurred? A lot of people think that the military is doing some suspicious illegal activities there and that's why. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below.
Alright, let's move right along. Number 9. This is a dumpster in Chile that appears to have mummified dead bodies dumped in it. I'm really hoping there is some sort of costume store nearby, or this picture was just taken after Halloween, but who knows. Next up on this list, just like that, number 8. So this image is from the Netherlands, and it appears that there is someone dragging a dead body to the edge to dump it. Is that the real life Dexter Morgan? Didn't Dexter dump his bodies in the water? And also, isn't there a new Dexter coming out? I'm super excited. Well, going back to this picture here, we actually found the coordinates on Google and searched it before this video, and there is now a new image without anyone on the pier. So this was definitely strange and scary, and Google's probably like, oh, we just captured like a live situation happening here. I think people looked into this picture and I'm pretty sure it was just a wet dog, and what people are seeing as blood is just water. Well, at least that's what I'm hoping. Number 7. This image is from France. It has sparked a ton of questions on the internet about what on earth that creature is standing on the balcony. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Also, if you guys are liking this video, make sure to hit the like button because it really helps us out. It's prompted several paranormal and otherworldly folks to look further into it. But now if you search that same location, the entire camera is blurry and nothing can be seen. Number 6. Hopefully CCTV helped save this woman. Well, hopefully she was found safe and alive after this image was captured. This might have been the moment she was kidnapped and thrown into a trunk of a car by 2 men. Alright, let's move on to number 5. Is this real life right now? I don't know what that is. Obviously, Google Maps messed up on this one. Technology isn't 100%. Unless Elon Musk made it, it's 100%. But I don't know what that is, like an owl? Yeah, I think it just got split. Is that an owl? It is an owl?
No.
Oh, it isn't. It's definitely it's confirmed cat. Okay, so this one is less scary and more of a funny picture just to lighten the mood a little bit, but it's pretty weird if you ask me. I'm hoping that this is just a glitch, a real life glitch, or maybe just a simple glitch in the camera. Maybe this is a new discovery. Maybe this is a new species. What do we name it? Guys, what do we name it? Tell me in the comment section below. You guys are gonna put like half cat, half owl. You guys are gonna troll me hard. Oh my god, Landon thought that was an owl. Some of you guys did as well, alright? Okay, I might be the only one. Next up, number 4. Well, we're looking at this picture. This is one of the most famous strange Google Maps Street View finds out there, and I have to hope that someone knew the cameras was hitting that area and this is just a setup, you know, just to be funny. There's a lot of pranks out there, a lot of funny business going on out there. Well, otherwise it means that this thing actually exists, and I don't like thinking about it at all. Can anyone confirm if this was found near Area 51? What do you guys think is in Area 51? What is President Donald Trump hiding in Area 51? Coming in at number 3, alright, well, we have this. We're looking at it right now. Well, this is a picture of Blood Lake. It was found on Google Maps, and the lakes surrounding it are normal colors. So why is this one such a deep blood red? I mean, do we want to know the answer to this one? Well, apparently it is believed that a slaughterhouse nearby has run off to this body of water. So they're just slaughtering animals, and that could be blood. The blood could just be draining into it. I really don't think that's very sanitary. Alright, number 2. I don't even know what to say about this one. It's so odd to me that cars would be normally driving by with people dressed like this. This has to be a prank. FouseyTube, is that you? Nelk Boys, is that you guys? Were they filming a music video of some sort? I have so many questions. I bet the real story is hilarious. If you have any ideas on what on earth is happening here, let me know. Well, let me know about any of these, but especially that half cat, half owl picture. Let me know if it's actual owl. Finally on our list at number 1, we have this picture right here. Okay, this is so weird. This is pulled directly from Google Images. So this is in Kazakhstan, and researchers say this isn't satanic at all, and it's just an outline of the park that is there. I'm gonna go ahead and say that that is a lie. No way, this is just innocent.